Hello everyone, Zelrant here, and Laney has finally arrived on the CN version of Girls Frontline 2, and I've been kind of watching over the spreadsheet as it's been getting updated, and it looks to be pretty much complete at this point. The last thing I was waiting on was the fixed keys, which are here now. The dupes are here. All of her ghost version, or whatever they call it, the simulacrum is all here. There's just a little bit of cosmetic I noticed, like they don't have the name of the ultimate here, but everything else looks to be here at this point. So I thought we'd just go ahead and look through our kit here and kind of see what my and kind of give my thoughts on it as we go. So we'll just go right to, I mean, there's a lot to this. Let's just go right to the passive. This applies overall to her. There is not one for like the simulacrum. So when you look at her passive, so passive debuff, for each 12 points of initial max HP, increases crit rate by 0.1% up to a maximum of 30%. So that looks like a value that you're going to want to hit right off the bat. So HP is going to be quite important for her, at least to get it to the point that she gets that max crit. So right there, that's pretty nice, giving a good chunk of... So she might be able to crit fairly easily if you can just get 30 right off the bat just from her HP. And then applies Precognition Foresight to all enemies within a 7-tile radius. So wherever she is, they are going to get this buff here. Now you have Precognition Foresight, which when receiving physical damage decreases defense by 10%, considered a defense type debuff. Now I did read on the Discord Precognition Perception, which is basically, looks to be like an exact copy of that debuff, except it applies to her clone version, or the Simulacrum. And so if you have an enemy that's within both of their ranges, they should get both of them, and they are stacking from what I can tell. So just know that when you see that, the precognition for both of them, it's just basically one applies to the main version and the other one to her clone that it makes. So let's go back up to the passive here. Man, there's so much text on here to go through. And then you have, before using an active attack, applies 1 stack of Under My Umbrella. So she's going to be stacking this quite a bit. Under My Umbrella, when receiving damage from Laney or Laney's Simulacrum, decreases defense by 15%. This can be stacked up to 3 times. Okay, we're starting to really see in her kit, because that was the one thing with Yuhi having her passive buff that makes it where you can have excessive damage when you go over 100% defense reduction. We're already seeing a lot of it start to stack up here. 10% from these two right here. 15% that can be stacked 3 times. I mean, this is looking to be our hard carry. So we're going to be able to easily stack that quite easily there. Confectance Index is increased by 2 points after an active attack if the target's defense is lower or equal to 0. And looking at her kit already, and then if you pair her with like Yuhi and Faye and all them, this should be no problem at all. Increases the damage multiplier equivalent to 10% of initial max HP. And additionally increases Confectance Index by 1 point. After using an active attack, no active attacks can be used on the same allied round. Okay, so the big thing I'm seeing here is 10% of initial max HP. And so you're getting that additional Confectance Index. She's going to be able to stack Confectance Index pretty easily if you're really maxing out the defense down. So Yuhi is going to be very important for her. And Yuhi's most likely our next unit on Global. There's a reason they're releasing her in CN now, and then Yuhi on our next banner, because they know we're going to see this kit and know that we want Yuhi for her. But that 10%, so she definitely wants some HP in her stats to get this damage increase. So that's pretty good right there. All right, now let's look at her kit first, and then we'll look at her Simulacrum. So we have her basic attack. Selects an enemy target within a 7-tile radius and deals physical damage. So it's just basically that. If her Simulacrum is present, it will use Phantom Barrage on the selected target after skill use. So if she uses her basic attack, her clone will use, I believe it's the clone's basic attack, basically. Yeah, Phantom Barrage. So from what I can tell, the clone basically clones her attack, whatever the equivalent is. So her basic, if you use your basic attack on her main one, her basically dupe or clone is going to use her basic attack. And then depending on which one you use, see, if you use the clones, it's going to force Victory Protocol, which is her basic attack here. So they're kind of all going to be tied together. Their skills are tied between each other. And I'm pretty sure they're very similar between each other as well. So that's pretty nice there. You have her skill 1, Combat Algorithm. Selects an enemy target within a 7-tile radius and deals physical damage equivalent to 140% attack to it. If Simulacrum is present, it will use offensive simulation centered on itself after skill usage. If offensive simulation did not hit any targets that were hit by combat algorithm, it ignores... Okay, so you're going to be able to ignore 30% of the target's defense if this one does not hit them. So that one's going to be kind of tricky. This is more of like an AoE. You can ignore defense if you're able to have the clone hit somebody that's different than who the main one hits. And if you look at offer simulation, I believe it's fairly similar, except this one is selecting a target within a 7-tile radius, and this one does AoE damage, while the other one was single target here. Yeah, so you select the target, and then this one does AoE damage, and you're trying to, if you want to get that 30% damage reduction, you want to hit a different target. Although if you're fighting a boss, that's not going to be as pertinent. To all enemies with a 3-tile radius. For each additional target hit, decreases damage multiplier by 20%, down to a minimum of 80. So if you're hitting multiple enemies, it's going to be a little bit weaker than if you just hit a single target. This skill cannot be used after the skill usage, lasting till the end of the next allied round. Okay. If the skill hits enemies whose defense is lower than or equal to 0, Combat Algorithm, which is the main ones, will ignore 30% of the target's defense. After skill usage, Laney will use... Okay, so hers here doesn't have that thing tied to it where you need to hit somebody different. This one just looks like if their defense is lower than or equal to 0, it's going to make it so that her main one ignores 30% defense. And like I said, with Yuhi and the whole physical team, having below 0% defense reduction is going to be extremely easy. And you should pretty much have it at all times if you play it right. So that is going to be nice. So she's going to get that very easily. And then if you're in an AoE situation and she does a single target that's away from the other one, you can then ignore 30% defense on the AoE with the clone. So that's pretty good there on the skill 1. Now we have the skill 2 here. This one's a skill AoE. And so this one is her AoE on her second skill here. And these don't have cooldowns or confectance cost to them, as you can already see. I forgot to mention it. There's no cooldown or confectance cost. So in this one, it selects a tile within a 7-tile radius. It deals AoE physical damage equivalent to 120 to all enemies. If this skill cannot be used after skill usage, lasting until the end of the next allied round. If the Simulacrum is present, it will use basically its skill 2, centered on itself at the skill usage, and applies movement down for 1 turn. So it's going to slow everyone down on the Simulacrum. But let's see the skill 2 for them. Cognition Overclock. So this is another AoE. So this one's doing a lot of AoE. Selects an enemy within a 7-tile radius, 140% AoE attack, and then if present, it will use offensive. So it's basically very similar. So, but if it does not hit any that were hit by the other one, ignores 30% target's defense. So it's a little tricky there. Kind of looking at these. So they're very tied to each other, and it looks very big on AoE. I'm not seeing a lot of single target in the kit so far. But let's go ahead and let's just continue here. So it is very AoE centered here, but the numbers still look pretty good. Simulated Ally. So this is the summon. Her ultimate is the summon here. Selects an empty tile within a 7-tile radius and summons 1 Simulacrum. Yeah, applies synchronized potential on self and a Simulacrum for 1 round. Duration decreases at the end of the current round. At the end of the round, it decreases confectance index by 3 points. If there is not any confectance index, the Simulacrum will disappear. So that's where your confectance index is going to be very important. It's no cost up here, but you're going to want to make sure you're getting the 3 points in this, so that you can at least have it last for 2 rounds when you summon it here, because it has a cooldown of 2 turns. So every 2 turns, so you should be able to basically keep this thing up at all times if played correctly, from what I can tell here. And so that summons them, and then what is the ultimate on the Simulacrum, though? Select an enemy 7-tile 7-tile radius deals physical damage equivalent to 140% attack to it. This skill cannot be used after skill usage. If the simulacrum is present, it will use offense simulation centered on itself after skill use. If offense simulation did not hit any targets that were hit by combat algorithm. Another one where if it's hitting somebody different that the other skill did not hit, which combat algorithm is this one. So I'm wondering, they're all tied to combat algorithm here. I wonder if this is a typo on their edit here. I wonder if this is not fully complete. It looks like they're still actively working on these skills, possibly. Because it's got the same thing mentioned in all of these. But this could very well be how it works in ignoring defense here. Then you have that. So let's go ahead now and look at the fixed keys for her. Fixed key 1, when Laney, or my cat is rubbing up on my mic. Fixed key 1, when Laney or Simulacrum receives healing, restores HP equivalent to 20% max HP for the other half. I mean, healing's not been as important much lately, so not that useful there. After Laney uses Cognition Overload or Simulacrum uses Cognition Overclock, the other half's action knocks the target back 2 tiles, so you can knock them. That can be useful in select scenarios, but I mean, it could have some use, but very selective there. Fixed key 3, at the end of action, if the distance between Laney and Simulacrum is larger or equal to 3 tiles, both gain AoE defense 2 for 1 turn. So if they're away from each other, they're getting some defense. Nothing too crazy there either. Fixed key 4, simulated ally. When Simulacrum disappears, resets the cooldown of the skill. Okay, so the ultimate. When the Simulacrum goes away, it immediately resets. This can only be triggered, so she can immediately summon again, but that can only be triggered once. I think that one's going to be an important one, but we'll kind of have to see. When Laney uses combat algorithm or Simulacrum uses offense simulation, if the target's defense is lower than 0. Okay, so you have a dispel. That's going to be very easy to trigger, so you're going to be able to dispel easily with them. So that's good. I mean, we've already seen that a lot with the platoon bosses. And then fixed key 6 increases crit damage dealt towards enemies whose defense is lower than or equal to 0 by 5%. I mean, that's going to be a no-brainer. You're going to want that. Affinity key, attack, HP, crit damage. Not really liking that. Common key. Now, this probably has its use for some characters. Like, Springfield takes advantage of this because she actually likes both attack and HP in her kit. So, Springfield actually can utilize this. Attack plus 5%. On her common key, increases damage dealt towards enemies whose defense is lower than or equal to 0 by 10%. So that one's going to be strictly a physical unit one, and since she's going to be your main damage dealer, you're going to want to put this one on Laney. But let's look at her dupes now. How does this change her kit? So her dupe 1 decreases the cooldown by 1 turn on the alt, and the Confectant's Index consumption by 1 Simulacrum by 1. Oh! Okay, that's an automatic. V1 is really, really good. V1 is really good on her. This is just... you're basically never... the Simulacrum is going to always be available. Because now you're decreasing it by 1 point, and you're easily able to get... So that's going to cost 2 per turn. And you can get 3 every 2... Yeah, so this basically, to me, makes it where you're pretty much having them up at all times. As long as you're able to get... the defense lower than 0%, which I think should be all the time against a boss using the physical team. So that one's, I mean, V1 is probably going to be very huge on her. This is a trend we're starting to see with a lot of the newer units. We've already seen it with Springfield and Vector, but a lot of other units didn't really have that feeling of needing the V1. You could maybe say Lena, but it's looking like it's becoming kind of a standard practice with newer units, where the V1 is a big increase to their value. Actually, the same problem with Yuhi as well. Yuhi really wants her V1 to even be functional within the physical team. So that one's going to be pretty huge for her. Increases the maximum stacks of Under My Umbrella to 6. And we've already seen that one. That one is a defense, stacking defense reduction to 6. That's taking it to a 90% defense reduction on just that. This is, yeah, this is a big V1. Applies 2 stacks of Under My Umbrella on all targets within a 3-tile radius of the selected tile, and increases Confectance Index by 3 points. And so this one, this is, which skill is this one? This is her ultimate, yeah. So as soon as she uses her ultimate, it now applies 2 stacks of it to all the targets to where she summons it, which to me, the important part's thinking about a boss. It's going to immediately put 2 stacks as soon as... Yeah, her V1 is huge. If you're wanting to go physical and make her a dang damage dealer, that one's pretty big. And increases Confectance... And she gets the Confectance Index points from it, too. So she also gets Confectance Index... Oh, my goodness. This is pretty massive. Her V1 is going to be probably a... Hey, everybody should get this, just like Vector. So just expect that. Now, I'll say her kit doesn't look bad without it. It just looks really, really good with it. V2. Enhances the effects of combat algorithm and offense simulation. Increases defense ignored to 50%. More defense ignore. And increases crit damage dealt towards enemies whose defense is lower than or equal to 0 by 10%. Okay, so more crit damage. Before attacking, and now another one. Applies 1 stack of Under My Umbrella to the target. So you're going to be able to get those stacks much quicker here, because you want to get it if you're going into the V1 and later, you're wanting to get up to that 6 stacks, and that right there is a 90% defense ignore. And you're gonna already, and this one you're probably already gonna have it because of Yuhi and your other characters. Enhances the effect of precognition, foresight, and precognition perception. Okay, so that's the one buff that they're gonna have if they're within their range. For each 6 points of initial max HP, increases crit by 0.1%, up to 60%. So now V3 is allowing her to get a crit rate of 60%. So she's going to be critting non-stop. When attacking enemies whose defense is lower than or equal to 0, increases damage multiplier equivalent. So it basically just upped the numbers. But that's massive on the crit rate there. And then also they lower defense by 20% instead. And so I think that's another 40%, because if you have both of them in range of the boss, they both basically have their own debuff. These are basically the same, but one's the main and one's the clone. And so it went from 10% to 20%. So I think that's a 40% defense reduction there. Now, with that at V3. Upgrade for when Laney or Simulacrum deals damage to enemies whose defense is lower or equal to 0, the other half gains synchronized power. So they're going to get this buff, Synchronized Power. What is that one? Synchronized, I'm guessing that's just a translation difference. Potential. Increases stability damage dealt by 3 points. Okay, so then they can do... So that's just more stability damage. That's great. And they're both getting it, so that's basically like a 6 increase, because both of them get it. Or... Yeah, because when one attacks, the other one gets it. And when the other one attacks, the other gets it. So they're both going to have it after each other attacks. So... That's pretty crazy there. Enhances the effects of oh, no, wait. Oh, no, that's synchronized potential here. Okay, I guess they haven't put what that synchronized power is here. I don't see that on the buffs here. I'm not sure on that one yet. Maybe it just hasn't been added here. So I thought everything was here, but it looks like it's missing a couple things. But I think we're getting a really good picture of her kit overall. When I get to looking at her when she gets added onto the tier list, we'll go more into depth on some of the things that may be missed here. But if you also know what these are already and I haven't seen it, just go ahead and put it in the comments, and I'll pin it at the top if there's anything I'm missing on these buffs. Enhances the effects of... Yeah, so that makes it now 6. So, I mean, if you can get that on both of them, that's massive on stability break for them. V5. Enhances the effects of precognition foresight and precognition perception. So this is the one that that's this one up here. When attacking enemies whose defense is lower than 0, increases the damage. So now it went to 30% instead of 20%. So that's just another damage increase. If Laney receives fatal damage, restore HP equivalent to 100% max HP. Oh, okay. So if she dies, the clone can sacrifice itself to keep her alive. Nothing too crazy. Her V5 is probably the weakest so far. Just a damage increase here, and then a... I mean, it's a revive. It's nice, but I mean, if you shouldn't be putting yourself in that situation in the first place. But who knows? Then we got the V6, enhances the effects of combat algorithm and offense simulation, and that's those attacks here, right? Yeah, so that's her skill. So it's enhancing that skill here. Increases the damage multiplier to 160% attack, so an increase on the attack versus the other one. Increases the minimum damage multiplier to 100% and removes the restriction of being unable to use the skill after skill usage. So you're going to be able to use it back to back, which it says you couldn't do it in the original one. So you couldn't like back to back it when you had, because they had to kind of share their skills together. And even though it had no cooldown, it basically didn't allow you to back use it. But this is basically, that V6 is basically allowing her to ignore that. And so you can just keep using it over and over again. Yeah, this is, her kit's pretty broken, from what I can tell so far. It looks pretty crazy. That's actually pretty crazy in the fact that I think all of her dupes look overall really good. Her V1 looks good, V2 looks good, V3 looks good, V4 looks good. The V5 looks to be the weakest, in my opinion. And then V6 looks good. So there's a lot of stopping points. I feel like you can stop at V1 and feel happy. I feel like you can stop at V2, feel happy, V3 and feel happy, V4 and feel happy. V5, if you go V5 at that point, you might as well go V6 from what I can tell. But yeah, pretty crazy kit. But she's going to rely heavily on Yuhi. But I did see one thing. I will say one thing I did see on Discord. So let me see if I can pull this up here. Someone did say, yeah. Someone actually did the math like on all this. This could be incorrect because it's on Discord. But they said she by herself can get 450% defense reduction when you take all this stuff into consideration. And that is pretty insane. And I'll just, yeah, let me look at it again here. Yeah, 450% physical damage. Yeah. So, yeah, it's pretty insane on her overkit. That could be wrong. That's just me looking at Discord when I was kind of trying to look at some of these translations before it's here. They could be completely wrong for all we know. But you can already tell in this kit, you have 90% defense reduction with dupes in this skill alone, another 40% with these two, and then you have a bunch of other defense reduction and all this other stuff, as well as I think in her fixed keys. Yeah, so you have another, or was that one? That one's just more crit damage. So I mean, she is looking pretty insane on there. Now I'm gonna have to do a more in-depth like look and kind of see. I mean, see when the people that are testing her, because there's people testing her right now, and she's going to be added onto the tier list, Loot and Waifu's tier list that I like to use. They try and get it out like next day. This one might take a little bit longer for them because this is a pretty complex kit. But I will be going over her again kind of once they have tested her and kind of given their opinion and put her on their tier list. We'll kind of look at that and give my thoughts. But overall, she's looking quite good. But going to be very reliant on Yuhi. And Yuhi really kind of wants her V1. So, you'll want to get that. And Yuhi's coming out next. So if you're really liking this kit and you really like this character, your opportunity to get Yuhi will be on this next banner. Now, don't feel pressured to get Yuhi. That's the one thing I'll say. Don't feel pressured to get Yuhi. Because, well, you have 4 banners later to get her. And I doubt we're going to be getting Laney anytime soon. I mean, they could bring her up. But you can always pick up Yuhi or her dupe down the road when she reruns in 4 banners. So don't feel pressure to get her on the next one. But overall, that is her kit. It looks pretty good. I'm really liking what I see here. She looks good without dupes. I mean, overall, the kit does look good without dupes. So don't feel pressured to get dupes based what I'm seeing here. Because all of her dupes look crazy too. But she does look good overall without them. But we'll have to kind of see when people get done testing her. And then let's see, the last thing here, her weapon, Project Helios, when attacking enemies whose defense is lower than or equal to 0, easy, deals extra stability damage. Okay, that's great. When using active physical attacks, ignores 20% to 40% of the target's defense. Oh, so if you max this out, another 40% defense ignore. If other allies have the same effect, which in the physical team they are, Additionally, ignores 15 to 20. So, oh my goodness, if you R5 this, that's another 65% defense ignore. And then imprint skill. Okay, that doesn't really matter too much. So that's just another 65 potential. So I think when I seen that the 450 defense ignore, that included this as well. So yeah, she can really stack that defense ignore. And that was kind of what we were seeing with the physical team when we said we didn't really have the main damage dealer. You can clearly see who's going to be your damage dealer with that. But yeah, we'll have to kind of see what the numbers are when we see the tests. We'll probably start seeing them come out tomorrow or Wednesday. And so I'll take a look at those when those come out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Her kit looks great. I really like the character. But yeah, if you like my content, if you could like, comment, subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.